Where? Go on then. Go on.
Not only are we taking you inside the paddock, but we have been given permission to come inside the dry pit where all the teams are getting ready for tomorrow, so that we can show you a bit more about the boats. And who better than full-time world champion Jonathan? Jonathan, can you tell us more about how powerful and fast these boats are?
Yes, absolutely. Well, this is a typical Formula One powerboat, and perhaps I'll start at the front end of the boat and work my way back to the back of the boat. So basically we have this area here, it's called the cockpit, and it's where the driver sits, and it gives the driver an immense amount of protection if there's an accident. The area from here to the front is called the safety cell. The safety cell is built from many layers of carbon fibre, so it's incredibly strong. So when the driver's sitting inside, if the boat overturns or somebody hits him in the side, it means he's got massive protection. We also then have a screen here. It's almost like an aircraft fighter cockpit. The screen is made from a special material which is very hard, and of course the top of the cockpit is the same strength as the actual sides themselves. This is where the driver sits. This is the driver's office. The driver sits in a special seat that's moulded around him, and he has to take off the steering wheel to get in. Once he's sitting in the seat, he has a harness, just like a safety belt in a car, which comes either side of him, around his stomach and underneath, which means that he's strapped into this area and he cannot move.
I mean, these boats are called Formula One boats, and they really look like a Formula One car.
They do. They almost look like an aircraft as well. The reason that they've got this top area is because when you hit the water at very high speed, let's say 150 miles an hour, the pressure of the water against the driver's helmet would be immense. In fact, it could kill him. So what we do is to give the driver added protection, we have this area so that if the boat does go over, the pressure of the water actually hits the screen itself rather than the driver. Just in the back here, we have a series of pumps, and these pumps actually move the engine that we have here. As you can see, they move the engine up and down and in and out. When you move the engine out on the transom, which is the back of the boat, the front of the boat lifts. Because it's a catamaran and has an area in between the two sponsons, as the boat lifts, more air is pressurized underneath the boat. And basically it allows the boat to lift almost like an aircraft and run on top of the water.
I was going to say, it was very impressive, like watching it during the qualifying and yesterday free practice, because it was the first time for me. It's only the tail that is on the water, and I was expecting it to take off and fly at any moment.
Well, the driver controls the way that the boat runs on top of the water, and with a racing car, the suspension is set. So when he goes out onto the track, the suspension cannot be moved. But with a boat, the driver is altering the suspension, as we call it, of the boat about 100 times every lap. The engine itself is, on this particular boat, is a 2.5 V6 engine. It produces over 400 horsepower, so it's very powerful, but it also has a lot of what we call torque. The boat accelerates from 0 to 60 in around 2 seconds, and they will run, in fact, around 160, 170 miles an hour if you want them to. But in typical racing conditions, as we have here in London, the maximum speed is about 150 miles an hour. So it's still very fast. Of course, when the driver's sitting in the cockpit, when he comes to corner, there is an immense amount of stress as he corners the boat. In fact, the lateral G, which is what I mean, that the G-force pushing the driver into the side of the cockpit as he turns, is normally around 5.5 to 6.5 Gs. So that is 6.5 times his weight is pushing him into the side of the cockpit.
They really need to be very fit, very strong, isn't it?
They very much do. They've got to have very fast reactions and reflexes, and they have to have a lot of upper body strength.
So what an amazing platform this championship is to try and test cutting-edge latest technology, isn't it?
Well, it very much is, yes. I mean, we are playing around with the design of the boat all the time. In the wind tunnel, with CFD, and also just in testing on the water. Because sometimes when you design things in a wind tunnel, they're very effective. But when you put them on the water, it doesn't always follow that what you see, you are.
And after 2 days of action, now that we have seen them out there today, yesterday, what can you say about the layout in Royal Victoria? How challenging is this circuit for the drivers?
It's very challenging because although there's only 2 straights, so we have 2 turn buoys, one either side, the water conditions are very difficult. Number one, because you have a lot of wind in one direction, so the lift on the boat becomes almost uncontrollable. So the driver has to be very alert of that type of thing. And the other thing is that the water, because we have the dock walls, when the water goes from the boat, the wash hits the dock wall, it actually comes back into the centre of the circuit. So if you can imagine, it's almost like the water is boiling as the boats are going along. And these boats normally run on very, very flat water. So when they come to a place like Royal Victoria Dock, the driving style needs to be very different. But for me, it is one of the best circuits that we have today in the championship.
I promised you I could be taking you inside the paddock. Well, I couldn't get any closer.